All right, welcome to this explainer on the absolute future of military strategy. Today we're diving into a fascinating and monumental shift in how modern militaries operate. We are moving into an era where software, not just physical hardware like tanks and jets, is becoming the ultimate strategic capability. But before we really get going, I want to explicitly state, the Autonomous Archives work is to be noted. Without their attention to detail and due diligence, this video overview would not be possible. Their rigorous analysis forms the backbone of our exploration today. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the massive data problem modern militaries face, the shift to software-defined warfare, Titan-specific architecture, the new industrial ecosystem building it, and finally, the architecture of power. So, let's jump right into Section 1, the data integration problem. You might think a modern military's biggest struggle is a lack of information. Actually, scratch that, it's the exact opposite. They're literally choking on disconnected data. For years, the focus was just buying better sensors, like higher-resolution satellites and faster drones. But while that gave us more data, it just created these massively siloed intelligence disciplines. We're talking land, air, sea, space, cyber. None of them could talk to each other fast enough across multi-domain operations. And you can see the exact bottleneck right here. Look at all those distinct domains. A human analyst just cannot manually reconcile satellite imagery, maritime radars, cyber emissions, and ground logistics all at once. By the time a human pieces that giant puzzle together, the info is practically useless. It's completely lost its operational value. Which brings us to Section 2, Software-Defined Warfare. This total deluge of data, it demands a completely new paradigm. We can't just keep slapping better hardware onto the problem. We're shifting away from the old, clunky, hardware-centric architecture where isolated platforms moved at a snail's pace. Instead, we're entering a software-defined reality where data from literally everywhere integrates instantly. Think of it like a unified smartphone operating system, but, for a global military presence. The contrast here is visually stark. The old way, over there on the left, was manual, siloed, and incredibly slow. But looking at the integrated architecture on the right, it's obvious that modern operational advantage isn't about adding more standalone systems. True advantage now comes from integrating all that messy, heterogeneous info through AI and graph analytics to drastically supercharge decision-making. All right, Section 3, Titan System Architecture. Enter the U.S. Army's specific answer to this massive integration nightmare. Titan, the Tactical Intelligence Targeting Access Node. Let's peel back the layers here. First, it ingests massive amounts of raw sensor data. Second, it translates and normalizes that data in an integration layer. Third, it hits it with AI and graph analytics. And finally, fourth, it spits out actionable command outputs, like precision targeting and mission planning. The really crucial takeaway from this flow is that Titan acts as the military's ultimate universal translator. It takes all this chaotic data from different security environments and technical standards and instantly, seamlessly transforms it into precision operational insights across every domain. Now, the real technical magic trick making this happen is something called entity resolution. Basically, it's an integration process where the software automatically figures out that a fuzzy radar blip, an encrypted logistics report, and a distant radio intercept all actually point to the exact same target. It literally builds a single, persistent identity out of complete fragmented noise. Moving on to Section 4, the industrial ecosystem. Building a universal translator this complex, it completely rewrites the rules on who builds the military and how defense contracts actually work. Historically, prime contractors built giant physical hardware, the ships, the planes, the whole shebang. But today, a software company like Palantir acts as the prime integration lead for Titan. They aren't building the trucks, they're building the digital environment, working right alongside hardware giants and agile startups in this massive collaborative ecosystem. As you can see in this ecosystem map, capability doesn't belong to just one company or one product anymore. True power emerges from the complex web connecting them all. We're talking Anduril's edge computing, L3 Harris's sensors, and Northrop Grumman's hardware, all piping directly into the U.S. Army. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Interoperability. Getting all these separate systems to actually talk to each other seamlessly creates deep institutional dependence. Because a private vendor like Palantir controls this underlying technical infrastructure, the government becomes highly reliant on them to shape their long-term analytical workflows. Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, the architecture of power. So what does all this integrated software mean for actual human oversight and strategic operations? With all this automated entity resolution and AI analysis, a massive question inevitably pops up. Does artificial intelligence actually replace the human commander making the final call on a strike? Well, the formal answer is no. This is strictly AI-assisted decision-making. A human is always, quote-unquote, in the loop. But we have to be incredibly careful here. Why? Because the machine dictates what information that human actually sees. It filters the noise, which means it fundamentally controls which options are prioritized and presented in the first place. Looking at these core technologies, you can clearly see AI sits right at the center, managing pattern detection and graph analytics. That means a human operator's entire view of the battlefield is inextricably filtered through the software's internal logic. And this introduces a really dangerous risk known as the feedback loop. Imagine this. The AI makes a tentative guess about a target. A commander trusts the system and executes a real-world strike. That action generates a brand new administrative record which feeds right back into the system, seemingly validating the AI's original guess as a hard, permanent fact. Crazy, right? Because this kind of integration massively dials up system complexity, human oversight is more critical than ever. It means correction mechanisms, uncertainty labels, and strict auditability can't just be optional administrative conveniences. They have to be mandatory operational requirements. So the absolute biggest takeaway from all this source research is this. Information architecture is no longer just back-office IT support. It has quite literally become the operational architecture that defines and dictates modern military power. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought to consider. In a future defined by deeply integrated systems and AI-assisted workflows, who truly holds the strategic power? Is it the human commander who formally orders the strike? Or is it the software architect who coded the system that identified the target in the first place? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the architecture behind the decisions.